and welcome to another Lawn Fawn video. Today we're taking a look at the new Car Critters Christmas add-on stamp set. This stamp set has some new reindeer to add inside the original Car Critters car, as well as some festive holiday items to add to the car to decorate it. So for my first card, I'm going to use some pattern paper from the Snow Day Remix. This is going to be my background, and I'm also going to use the mountains from the Over the Mountains border stamps to stamp out the mountains for the background as well. I've cut both of these with a stitched rectangle, so they're going to line up perfectly and have that nice stitching detail around them. So I've stamped my mountains out, and I'm just going to use the coordinating dies to cut the top. So this is going to leave the whole bottom as a snowy ground for my car to be on. I'm going to color these mountains using some grays. And I'm starting with some shadows under the snow caps, along the bottom and on the left side of the mountains. And then I'm just going to blend out that dark color with a lighter gray. I'm also going to go in with a very pale cool gray and just add a little bit of outline to the snow so it's not quite so white, and we have a little bit of definition to the edge as well as the edge of the snowbank below those mountains. So I'm going in with a gray there as well, and then I'm going to go in with a lighter one and sort of blend it back out to white. So I've got a piece of storm cloud cardstock cut with that same stitch rectangle, and I'm using my ruler to mark where the bottom of my road is going to be, and then I'm going to mark the top, and it's going to be smaller, and then I can just connect those two lines, excuse my head, with the side of the ruler so you can see how it's going to get smaller as it goes off in the distance. And then I'm just going to take my paper trimmer and line it up with that pencil line and just trim off those side pieces. So this is going to create my little road for the middle where my car is going to go. So that's just going to layer in the center. It is a little longer than it needs to be, so I'm just going to trim off the top of it with my scissors. It doesn't have to be perfect because the top is going to get covered up by the car. So I'm going to go ahead and glue that down to the snowy ground. And then I can add this whole piece to my snowy sky background. So now to add my little car, I've got a tree to put on top of it, and then I'm also going to add the pile of presents behind the tree. So they've got a lot of stuff stacked up on this car. And then I'm also going to decorate the front of the car with the wreath. There are stamps in this stamp set that will stamp some holiday sayings in the license plate on the front of the car, but the wreath covers that up. So I did not do that on this one, but I will do that on my second card. So I'm just going to add my critters inside. So there is a bear in this set to match the bears from the first set. This one's holding a present though, which is much more festive and fits with the holidays. And then there's also some reindeer that can be driving with a steering wheel or a passenger as well. So for the sentiment, I'm going to use part of the sentiment that is from the stamp set that says, "I'll be home for Christmas." And I'm just stamping it on a banner cut from some rainforest cardstock, and I'm just going to white emboss that. So I've added some anti-static powder to the banner. I'm stamping it with some clear embossing ink, and then I'm going to add the white embossing powder. I'm stamping this one sort of left justified on the banner, so when I have this all done, I'll use the same die that I used to cut out the banner to trim off the excess on the end. So I'm making a slightly shorter banner than what the die creates. So I just heated that up with my heat tool till it's all melted. And then I'm just going to line up the die again and trim off that excess on that side. So I made my shorter banner. So I'm going to add my background panel that I've created to a kraft card base. So I have that nice kraft border around it. And then I'm adding a bunch of foam squares to the back of my car. So it's popped up off the background. It looks like it's more in the foreground. And I'm just going to add him to the top, covering up the top of that road. And I'm also going to add some foam to my sentiment banner, layer that along the bottom. And then I've taken the sleigh with the reindeer from the Winter Sky stamp set, and I'm just stamping that in black up in the sky for the silhouette of Santa with the reindeer. And then I'm also using the stamp in this set that says Jingle Bells, like they're singing. I'm stamping that around. These guys are singing on their little road trip. And I'm also going to stamp some of the little music notes that go with this. I also stamped out some of the trees from Winter Skies and colored them and die cut them. And then I'm just going to fill in around the car with those trees to kind of fill in my scene. So I'll glue some down directly to the background, and then I'll use foam squares for others to pop them up so I have some dimension between all the trees. And then I'm going to go in with some Stardust stickles and add some embellishments to the snow caps on my mountains as well as to the trees. I'm also going to use some yellow glitter stickles to add some shine to the headlights of the car. And then here is that finished card. I just love those cute little critters in the car, and I love the jingle bells singing all around. So of course this set also coordinates with the Car Critters reveal wheel add-on. So for my second card, I'm going to be creating a reveal wheel. I've already cut the 2 wheels that we need, and I have my template with the 3 cutouts that match the car. So I'm just going to line my template up with my wheel, and I'm just going to hold it in place with a little bit of washi tape. So my template will show me exactly where to stamp my little critters. And for this card, I'm actually going to combine the new critters, which are the reindeer, with some of the bears from the original Car Critters set. So my idea is that this reindeer is driving the car and his friend the bear is a passenger, and they're on a road trip. So I want each of these scenes to look like they're the same reindeer and the same bear. So I'm just stamping my little critters, and then I'm turning my wheels so that I'm always stamping upright in each of the openings. So now I can color them in, and like I said, I want this to look like it's the same reindeer and the same bear in each of these little scenes. So I'm going to color each of them exactly the same. I thought it would be fun to have a red steering wheel on this car. So I'm coloring in all the steering wheels red with just a little bit of shading. And then I'm going to color all my bears the same as well. So I accidentally colored part of the present. I thought that was the bear's stomach. So luckily the blue covered it up pretty well. And it's towards the bottom, so it's going to be covered up by the car a little bit too. So I'm glad I caught that before I got too far along. Now that all my critters are colored, I'm just going to fill in the space around them with some blue. I'm making sure not to color past the line that the die creates for the embossing, because that's the part that you're going to see on the outside where the little thumb hole is. So I'm using that as my guide where to stop my coloring for the background of the car. So you can see I'm tracing right inside that scored line, and then I'm just filling it in between each of the scenes. That way I don't have any white as the wheel turns. So I'm going to be creating a square card, so I'm using the square reveal wheel, and I've got the little car critter cut out, add-on dropped into the little slot, and I'm cutting this from some Let It Shine paper. I'm using that dark teal. And then I also cut a piece from some white, and I'm lining up my car that I've already colored and cut out with the opening so that I know it's in the right place where it's going to be. And that way I can see that as a guide on where to cut my hillside for the car to sit on perfectly. I've cut a piece of patterned paper from the Snow Day Remix. And that's going to be my card base. I like that red pattern. It's going to peek out from behind. And then I've cut the background piece here without the car cut out of some rainforest cardstock. So this is just going to be the base. I just thought that this would blend a little better than a bright white piece. So I'm going to put together the mechanism of the reveal wheel. I've got the little wheel. I've put the brad through it. Then I'm going to feed it through the back of the main wheel and open it up. You can see I still have the template on mine, and I'm going to use that as a guide to line up my opening. I'm putting 3 foam squares on the small circle that's on the back. Then I can use that template as a guide to line up the opening with the opening on the front of the card. Then I can just layer the 2 squares that are die cut together, and my wheel will be in the perfect place. So I'm just checking that they're each in the right place, and then I can open up the brad and pull off that template. You could also do this by using those score lines on the circle as a guide if that's the way you prefer to do it. Now for the sentiment, I'm using the Winter Big Scripty Words stamp set, and I'm going to white emboss the sentiment Be Merry onto a piece of red cardstock, and I'm going to use the coordinating dies to cut it out. So I've just put some anti-static powder on this piece of red cardstock. I'm going to stamp my sentiment in some clear embossing ink, and then I'm just going to add that white embossing powder. Then I'll just use my heat tool to heat this up and melt that embossing powder till I get that bright white sentiment on that red cardstock. I can use the coordinating die to cut it out so that I'm going to end up with the white sentiment with a red border right around that white. I really love the look of the red around the white sentiment. I think it really pops off this snowy ground that I've created. And then I'm going to supplement that by the sentiment that's part of the stamp set that says driving by to say. So altogether it will say driving by to say be merry, which I think is cute. So I'm just going to add a little bit of glue to the back of this die cut and put it onto my snowy hill that I've created. Making sure it's closer to the bottom so that I have room to stamp the rest of the sentiment above. And then I can stamp the driving by to say right above it in some black ink. Now I can add this to the front of the card. And you can see since I used the same die to cut it out, the little thumb hole is cut out of that snowy hill too. So now to decorate the car, for this one I'm using the little snow piled on top of the car, which I just think is so fun. And then I'm also going to stamp something in the license plate on the front. There are a couple choices in this stamp set. This one I'm stamping in some red ink that says Merry Xmas. I'm also going to use these stamps in this set that allow you to decorate the car like a reindeer. Now, this is not something I like to do to my car, but it is really cute on the stamp set, I have to say. So we have that bright red nose right in the middle. I also think you could use this to make it like a clown car, which I think would be fun for like a birthday party. And then there's also the little antlers. So I'm actually not going to attach these to the car just yet. I'm going to go ahead and put the car onto my card base and line it up with that opening. And then now I can just attach the antlers and just tuck them right behind that snow that I put on top. So now to assemble the rest of the reveal wheel all together, I've put some foam squares all around that base piece, making sure to avoid the wheels so that it has room to turn. And then I can just layer the top piece over top, and you can see how those little critters spin in that windshield of the car perfectly. Now I can just add this whole piece to the card base that I created earlier. And you get that nice pretty red border around your scene. So I'm going to add some glitter to my snow. I'm just adding a line of glue right along the top of that snowy hill that I made. And I'm just going to add some chunky glitter to it. So I like this big chunky glitter when I have a long line of snow like this. I just think it looks really cool. And then I'm adding some glitter stickles to some other parts of the car to the snow on top. I also added some glossy accents to the headlights so that they were shiny like headlights are. And then I'm going to add some red stickles to the Rudolph nose in the middle. And then finally, you always want to be sure you add the arrow so that the recipient knows to turn the wheel for a surprise. And here is my finished card. I just think it is so adorable with that little reindeer and his little buddy the bear going on a road trip for Christmas. Now let's take a look at some examples from the design team. Kara used Santa from Ho Ho Holidays to add to the top of the car, and I just love the idea that he's driving the car from sitting on top. I think it's so much fun. Grace created a fun shadow box card. I love the little car on the front from the snow globe scenes, and then she created multiple cars on the inside like they're sitting in Christmas traffic trying to get somewhere. I just think it's so cute. Elena paired the car critters with the over-the-mountain borders to create this fun winter scene as they drive down the road. Jen created a fun reveal wheel card. I love how she used the sign and some die-cut letters to create the sentiment. I just think it's so fun. Elise created this fun trifold card. She used the over-the-mountain borders to create her snowy scene, and then as each of the sides opens up, you see that car that was hidden behind those snowy hills to be revealed in the center, which I just think is so fun. I love how Tammy framed up her little scene inside of a stitch circle, and I love how she paired the Scripty Mary with her sentiment as well. And then Audrey's card is super sweet. I love that nighttime snowy sky that she created to set the scene for her little bears to take a road trip. Megan's card is super cute. I love how she paired the tiny Santa from Tiny Christmas and she piled the car high with presents and tied them down with a rope. I just think that's so clever. Thanks so much for watching. Have an amazing day. Bye.